Hello and welcome back to the Daily Bible Summary, where the goal is to renew your mind as we read a new chapter every day and ask, what can I learn? Today's episode is entitled Envy, Negotiation, and Deception. If you've read chapter 30, let's get started. As we close the last chapter, Leah has given birth to 4 sons, and the text leaves the impression that the pregnancies were happening very close together. Assuming 2 to 4 months between birth and a new pregnancy, Leah had 4 children in 4 years or less. Now, the first thing that we notice is that there is a definite rivalry going on between these two sisters. Rachel isn't just upset, she's envious. She's angry that she isn't getting pregnant, so she gives Jacob her servant Bilhah as a wife. Leah, seeing that she also now has stopped getting pregnant, matches that move and gives Zilpah, her servant, to Jacob as a wife. Even in the naming of the children, it reflects the emotion of the rivalry. Rachel names the second son Bilhah has Naphtali, which in doing so she says, I've wrestled with my sister and I've prevailed. The competition is fierce between these two. Later we will see that Reuben has discovered some mandrakes. Now, according to superstition, these plants were considered able to help with conception, and Rachel asks to have some of them. The conversation that follows reveals just how bitter the rivalry has become. Leah says, Is it a small matter that you've taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? Rachel responds, that he may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob comes home from the field that evening, Leah goes out to meet him and says, You must come in to me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he lies with her that night. This conversation also seems to reveal that Jacob is spending much more time with Rachel, the favorite wife, rather than Leah, his first wife. And Jacob, well, he must feel his only value is to be able to produce children. The trade, however, pays off for Leah, who becomes pregnant again. After Issachar, she has one more son, Zebulun, and then a daughter, Dinah. Rachel, on the other hand, is finally remembered by God, and she has a son whom she names Joseph. The meaning is basically, may he add. In other words, I hope I have another son. Wow, Rachel, competitive much? The text gives us the impression that all of this is happening very, very quickly. By the time Joseph comes along, there's only about 7 to 8 years difference between him and Reuben, the firstborn. At this point, Jacob has fulfilled his additional 7 years of service for Rachel, and he asks Laban to send him on his way. Laban, on the other hand, has recognized how much better off he is with Jacob than he will be without him. Now, even though Laban is an idolater, as we'll see in the next chapter, as God blessed Jacob, Laban also benefited. Laban won't want his good luck charm to leave so easily. The two men strike a deal. Jacob will work for Laban for a period of time, and he'll only take the speckled, spotted, and black lambs and goats as his wages. He'll continue to work for Laban, and they'll both continue to benefit. But Laban, being a bit quicker and craftier, takes all the speckled, spotted, and black lambs and goats out of the herd before Jacob can claim them, and he moves them 3 days away under his son's supervision. Poor Jacob now has a whole bunch of solid colored animals to tend to. What is he going to do? Well, the solution reads a little bit like superstition and science. Jacob takes some sticks, peels them, and places them where the animals breed. As the flocks breed, the offspring produce speckled, spotted, and striped. This seems to be some folklore superstition that Jacob is using here. But the other thing Jacob does is something that we practice today. He makes sure to keep the strongest of the animals together so that as they breed, their offspring will also be strong. He uses the peeled sticks only when the strong animals breed and not when the weak ones do. The result? The strong animals produce speckled, spotted, and striped offspring. Those are Jacob's. While the weak animals produce solid-colored offspring, and those belong to Laban. In the end, Jacob gains large flocks and many servants. He becomes exceedingly prosperous. So, as we go through this chapter, what can we learn and take away from it? First, family dysfunction multiplies when everyone feeds the cycle. I hope we can see that there are some serious family flaws here. Laban would have been the main influence on these two girls, and he's a scoundrel, so it kind of makes sense that they would pick up some of his characteristics. As we discussed before, we need to be careful what example and training we give to children. As you look at the names chosen for each son, you see motives expressed by these names. How would Issachar feel knowing that his name means wages? How would Dan feel knowing that his name means God has judged? These children are being used as pawns in a rivalry between Rachel and Leah. Again, we see several people involved, and they all had a role to play, but they all managed to keep the flywheel of envy and jealousy spinning around and around. Proverbs 17:1 says, "Better is a dry morsel with quiet in a house full of feasting." Let me read that again. Better is a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. Better to have a little where there is peace than abundance where there is a constant competition and bitterness. The second thing we might be able to take away is that Jacob is learning. But is his method working, or is something else going on here? Laban is up to his old tricks, but Jacob seems to have learned a few things too. While Laban thinks that he has outsmarted Jacob, Jacob simply waits for nature to take its course. The recessive genes that produce the speckled, spotted, striped animals would show themselves in due course. Jacob uses selective breeding, keeping the strongest animals together, which is legitimate animal husbandry. But he also uses peeled sticks, which is superstition. The text says it worked. Jacob's flocks grew strong and numerous. But here's the question. Did Jacob's methods really work? Did the sticks really help produce the results? Or was something else going on? We'll find out more in the next chapter, where God reveals what was really happening during these years. For now, what we can say is this. It certainly helps that Jacob is being helped by God in all of this, though I don't think God told him to use the sticks. We'll see God's hand confirmed in these events in the next chapter. Finally, God is with Jacob, and he's increasing Jacob greatly. In just 20 years, Jacob has gone from nothing to exceedingly prosperous. This is what God promised back in Genesis 28, verse 15. "Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised to you." God is keeping his word. As we get to the next chapter, we'll see that Jacob makes his escape, and God protects him along the way. Whether Jacob fully understands how it's happening or not, whether his methods are wise or superstitious, God is fulfilling his promises. Romans 8:28 says, "We know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." God uses circumstances, even messy, dysfunctional family situations, to bless Jacob with children and wealth and to advance his purposes. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll see Jacob flee from Laban and discover what God was really doing all along. As we see the history that Moses records here and witness how God uses circumstances to bless Jacob, we continue to renew our minds.